Harville and Helen. You not only are the co-authors of this book, Getting the Love You Want, but you are also a married couple. You've been married a long time.
Long time.
You've gone through your ups and downs. And this is a revision of the book. And you were mentioning to me earlier, it's the third revision of the book.
Right.
Why did you decide to make a revision of this book?
It's 30 years old. It's a birthday party.
It's a birthday.
Yeah, I mean, we had no idea the book would be received like it was 30 years ago. Like, we were the last to know that the book would go global.
It's based on a concept, on a theory. And the theory is under constant review as new data comes to the culture, like brain neurophysiology that started in about 2000. We had a whole new science of the brain. When Getting was written in 1988, the brain was pretty much a fixed thing in your skull, and you could change your habits, but you couldn't change your brain. So it was only, so things like that, that the new theories of the brain. And then there are new theories of how human beings organize themselves. Then about every 10 years, it's like, well, it's time to integrate that now into the book. Not so much because the core thesis of the book needs to be revised. It's because the supportive evidence, this is what we're finding, has more support. Or there was something we really got wrong. There was in the second edition of the book, we took out a whole exercise that was actually not good at all, and
It wasn't working for couples.
wasn't working for couples. We practiced everything. It wasn't working for us. So it was an exercise about expressing your emotions intensely, and there was a period called catharsis that was supposed to be. That was the healing thing, is to get it all out.
Get your anger out.
Well, we could do that every day.
Take turns
And what
to
we
get your anger out.
and what we were discovering was the more anger you got out, the more anger you had. So that,
A vicious cycle.
but the model that had been in the past in therapy was, if you got your anger out, you'd have less of it. But what we discovered, this is the brain science, is that if you focus on your anger, your brain will begin to habituate anger, and you will be more angry and stay angry longer. That's why we updated it, is to get out the stuff that didn't work, put in the new insights, and then build some new processes that we discovered do work.
And then we just, the whole mental health field in the 70s and 80s thought catharsis, get it out.
Yeah.
And so we were one of many that thought, well,
Yeah.
express your feelings, but that's deadly
It's deadly.
if you don't do it in the right way.
If you don't do it.
Interesting.
There's
Yeah,
a
you still
better way
express
to get
feelings,
your
but in a
feelings out,
different way.
like making a request instead of communicating.
That takes a
you're-
lot of time
Yeah.
to talk it out calmly.
Yeah, it's better just to shout it out, you know. Get it out, get them,
So,
let them
so
hear
do
you.
you two never shout at each other?
Well, that's a
Well, that's the answer.
well,
Maybe
occasionally
used to,
I get
well.
sort of frustrated.
I think you're great.
But it's
I think
but
you
it's
make
a, it's a little lower tone of voice and shorter. But what we have and what we do is, anytime there is a kind of emotional rupture, which all human beings will have, we have what we do is a repair process. So it doesn't so much matter. I mean, it does matter that you don't rupture all the time. But when you do that, what matters is you fix it quickly. And so we have a built-in reconnecting process, so that, like this morning, we got off center with a transaction. And then about 5 minutes later, we corrected that, and everything was back to where it was before. Because, I live in one world, she lives in another world, and they don't always have to collide, but they bump each other a little bit, and it's like, ouch.
And what is your quick fix? Is it you recognize it and you apologize to each other? Or what's the quick thing? What's the quick tip for people?
You do what your partner needs to have a repair.
At that
And
moment.
like Harville, and teaching this to others, Harville will say, if I just say, Helen, I'm sorry, I'm fine.
Mhm.
Helen is fine. But if I do something and I apologize, Harville goes, that's not good enough. I want changed behavior. So, but then
Yeah.
I need to learn to change my behavior, and anyway, there are all sorts of ways.
So what repairs basically has to do with your childhood? I grew up with people who would apologize to you and then hit you again. So, I mean, they wouldn't hit me physically, but they would apologize and then criticize me again. So it's like, apologies are preparations for the next assault. So if Helen apologizes, I don't trust that, not because of Helen, but because of my receptor capacity. But it works for Helen. If I apologize to her, she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." But if Helen has to do something, she has to do a behavior for me.
Right.
And so I learned that when people do something, I can trust that. But if they say something, I can't trust that. And you know, my brain is still there. I don't know. Y'all have a way to fix that? And that's the thing we discovered. We used to think you could fix all those memories. Now that's the new thing about updating stuff is the cutting edge of therapy now does not actually think you can heal childhood wounds. What happens is you create a relationship where you don't activate them anymore. So we work with that by creating a safe enough relationship. Then I'm not activating Helen's memories of the childhood pain, and she's not activating my memories of pain with my caretakers. But we're building a new set of memories of our interaction being one where I can trust her, she's reliable. I know that if we blow it, she'll come and repair, I'll go and repair. So we're creating a new kind of relationship than the one we had in childhood, which built the memories that can be triggered by behavior. And we've been around and sitting in that therapy chair long enough to know we've never seen anybody actually get rid of memory.
Right.
What we've seen people is get new memories, which then change their perception of each other, and then they learn new behaviors, which creates new memories, which changes their perception of each other. And after a while, you don't have somebody you're looking at as your caretaker from childhood who was not reliable or whatever. You're looking at a real person who's interacting with you in a real way, in real time, every day, and you're not being, put down by her behavior. So that's basically.
You also mention in your book that we tend to find partners who have some of those, difficulties that we had growing up, or who were those negative behaviors that we saw, as well as some of the good. So if we're doing that and we've found that person with those negative behaviors, how do we move on from there?
Well, that's marriage. Anybody who falls in love will have found somebody who will trigger your childhood memories.
There are three things you do. You first have a new definition of a relationship. It's not your partner or you having interactions. That's not a relationship only. That's not how we describe it. We say a relationship is two people and the space between them.
Right.
That your partner is part of the relationship and I'm part of the relationship or you're part of the relationship. But the power of the relationship is the space between. And both people need to learn to steward the space between in a way that they can connect. And to do that, there are three things. You use the Imago process
Which is called
of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you take turns talking and listening instead of both talking at the same time. So there's a clear process of requesting to have a dialogue, and both people stop and talk and listen, taking turns. Second, you make a commitment, zero negativity in your relationship. You shift frustrations into request. And third,
And go to curiosity instead of judgment as a part of that.
shift from judgment to curiosity, and wonder why your partner just did what they did instead of my partner's an idiot or a jerk. Like that's a judgment. And I wonder why my partner did that. Maybe I should listen to more about why he did it or she did it. And the third is to remember that there are some wounds from childhood, like someone called us a thorn.
It's okay, I'm over it, guys.
But still, that little wound is there, and you need to really pay attention to these childhood things, because two people can learn to heal each other's or care for their wounds in a way that makes real love happen in a relationship. And don't ever give up. Every romantic relationship falls into the power struggle. And after the power struggle, there's real love if you know what to do.
Yeah, and I think the thing we'd like to normalize is just that. Conflict in a relationship is normal. So if you think you've got a bad relationship because you're having conflict, you just have the wrong concept of a relationship, because romance always becomes de-romanticized. Idealization always becomes disappointment. That's the nature of the human mind, and we do that with a new job. Go, wow, look what a great job I have. And 2 or 3 weeks later, you know what, this job sucks. Or that person, or something. You find, like the power struggle, you find a idealization of it, so that second space is there. And Helen, you did such a great job of reminding people that the second stage is a part of the journey. But it's not a place you should live. It is a stage that you should go through to the next stage, which is the one you wanted in the first stage with the romantic piece. And I think we say now with some confidence that you can have the first stage back. We used to say no, you have to go into mature love, and don't ever count on romantic stuff again, because we know that's a part of a childhood fantasy. But what we discovered is that if people get safe enough through using the dialogue process, safe enough, they connect. And then when they connect, something begins to happen in their neurochemistry. They start feeling endorphins. And sometimes they have experience and they feel a little dopamine. And then they like each other and they hug and they trigger oxytocin, which is a bonding chemical. And after a while, they say, wow, look who I live with. And romance is recovered. The affect, the emotions of romance are recovered. But if you don't know how to sustain it, it's like the first romance. You had it, you didn't know what to do with it, so you ruined it by criticizing your partner. Negativity ruins romance. You can't be intimate and negative at the same time. Most people are negative, hoping it'll lead to intimacy. It's not going to do that. You have to go the other way. So anyway, that's a piece of the process. And then to get to empathy, like to feel, wow, what's going on with my partner when they're acting crazy, is that they're actually remembering having a bad childhood memory. They don't know it, but part of their brain is remembering something, and it's showing up as an interactive behavior with their partner. And it looks crazy, like, why would you do that? Why would you yell at me if you want me to hug you? Well, in childhood, the baby went, ah! And the mother went over and hugged them. So the brain remembers if you cry loud enough and be awful enough, somebody will hug you. They won't do it in adulthood. You have to learn how to send the need signal in a different way.
So it's about better communication.
Better communication, right.
And you run 2 workshops a year, you mentioned. From your workshops and in all of your research, what do you find what's today's biggest struggle for couples?
The biggest struggle for couples.
So let me just say, we run 2 workshops a year here at Multiversity in California, but we do workshops all over the country.
Throughout the year.
Yes, so a lot more. I forget how many.
I think we do about 8 now.
But I would say a disappointment, if I had to name a disappointment, is people struggle wishing their partner had reliable warmth for them.
Reliable warmth.
Yeah.
And was there at presence, and that they could count on their partner to be present, emotionally present for them.
Right.
That's my guess. I'm just talking about the.
And is that something that you think can be fixed?
Absolutely, absolutely. We know how to fix couples. No one should give up. Harv and I were almost divorcing in the late 1990s.
Late 1990s.
We've been, how long have we known each other?
43 years.
Okay, I'm bad with numbers. Okay. And we've been married,
38.
okay, so the last therapist we saw, when I kept dragging to Harville to a therapist,
In the
called
late
us
90s.
the couple from hell.
Yeah.
And they fired us. We kept firing these other couples because we were smarter than, fired the therapist because this therapist were smarter than them. Fired them, and then one fired us. So we almost got a divorce. We went to the divorce lawyers. And so it was really sad. We tell people that because we don't want other people to think, oh, Helen and Harville, it's easy for them to do it. But I'm married to a jerk. And this will never work with my jerky partner. Well, we were jerky. I was really jerky. I was doing a lot wrong. And I have the marriage of my dreams. So
What's
anyone can get through that power struggle and get it. You just have to do what the book says.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I was going to mention about the book. So we went to therapy, and as Helen says, and then we came home and said, we wrote a book on couples therapy. And we had been on the Oprah show, so there was a sense in which we had more visibility in the culture than any other couples therapist at the time. And we were just about in the divorce courts. So we said, why don't we read our book?
Instead of paying all these other therapists.
Just read the book, it's in there. So we began to practice what we preached. And it turns out that we got the outcome.
Our kids even
it actually works.
Our kids even threatened to go on Oprah and tell Oprah what we were really like. It was really sad. We can laugh about it now, but living through it was really hard at the time. And this man, I just can't believe I'm so lucky to be married to him.
Well,
Every day, I thank God that I'm married to someone that can help anyone get love back. And he's a brilliant theoretician, and the theory gets better and better every day. He comes up with a little tweak, and every year it gets better and better. And so this new edition will have real cutting edge stuff that worked for us. And we were the couple from hell.
But when I hear
That's
you say
amazing.
that,
We'll all sign up.
Without you, none of it would have happened. So you're indispensable to all of this. And while we have different roles in this, there is a partnership. And that's what's been fun, is to think of it as partners, have pillow talk. Our pillow talk is, what is going on?
What do we do about this part?
What do we do about this part? What do we do about that? And then some new idea will come and some new
We
piece
do that.
of the theory.
That's fun
Go take
for us.
notes and put
Your
it in the
pillow
next
talk is
edition.
about other people's relationships and
Right.
how to solve all the problems.
This is
How
fun.
we used to do that, and are we still doing that?
We just talk about the schedule for the next week and how our kids are going to get from place to place. We don't know anything about each other.
So one other thing about that I want to say about what the struggle for couples is, which was really surprising, that started the research that led to the first edition of, and the question was, why do couples fight? And so I did 8 years of clinical work on that, and literature work and so forth, and we came to a bunch of conclusions, all of which were wrong. And then finally, all the data filtered into a glaring conclusion, which is couples fight because they can't tolerate difference. I think it's warm in here. You think it's cold in here. Well, you're wrong. It's warm in here. So am I making sense? And there is no way around that. Difference belongs to human relationships. Your mind, my mind, shaped in different families, different ways of looking at it, and also neurophysiological needs are different. So, and Helen and I have this cold-hot thing all the time. We come to, especially in hotels, it's like, okay, who ran the thermometer up? Who ran it down?
We have the same
I finally had to
issue.
say to Helen, I think we need to buy some ski underwear for you because I can't take off anything else.
I wear my
but difference, and now
fur-lined jacket.
But if you
I'm
run
learning.
that up to what do you believe about God, what do you believe about sex, what do you believe about children, what kind of parenting values do you have? Well, they're all different. And so couples are complementary. That's the nature of their nature.
Harville says incompatibility is the grounds for marriage.
Incompatibility is a grounds for marriage.
So
And
if you feel like you picked the wrong one, like you were, what were you thinking? They're so different from me. That's who you're supposed to be with. We do think that unconsciously we're drawn to that one person, that if we could learn to love that one person, warts and all, and that person can love us, that we believe it's a holy experience, that the universal energies of love become to float between the two people and into the space between, and that God takes residence in the space between, the God of love.
Yeah.
However you want to phrase that this is really about marriage, but it's also a way that God can move on the planet with couples who really love each other, truly love each other, and the kids pick it up, and then other people pick it up, and it begins. Harville wants to make a more loving civilization, like one couple at a time. It's about transforming the culture.
So we're talking a lot. You have,
That's amazing.
and not giving you a chance for other questions.
No, no.
But I just want to amplify. Difference is couples' problems.
So it's normal and it's okay.
Normal.
It doesn't mean we should run away.
But absolutely not, because you got to go to somebody else different.
You just mirrored
So
us
you're
back, Julie.
not going to find it.
Now see what she did? She mirrored us back, which is the system.
She married a what?
She mirrored us back.
Mirrored
She
us
got
back,
the essence.
which is
You
part of
just
the system.
modeled the dialogue process.
Yeah.
I don't do that well with my kids at all. I've tried to learn that over the years in therapy, but then I always forget in that moment.
Just
Like, what
do
was
it.
it they
Just
said
do
to
it with their father. That's who you really need to do.
I'll try that. So I want to open it up. We just have a few more minutes
Sure.
left before we go to book signing. And you two will be off to the Home and Family Show, which will be exciting. So we want to open it up to everybody else here. Does anyone have questions?
I just wanted to hear more about what was the place you give classes at, Multiversity?
Multiversity is a retreat center south of San Jose.
Oh, okay.
It was an old junior college that went broke and a billionaire bought it. Have you ever heard of Omega?
Yeah, I've heard of Omega.
This is Omega in the west,
Okay,
but it's more luxurious than Omega in the east.
okay.
Omega in the east was built on a farm and doesn't have insulated buildings. This one has everything. So they opened about 4 years ago, I think now. So it's really new, and we do 2 workshops there a year. And we're going there tomorrow night to do a public lecture.
Okay.
Yes, come, it's wonderful. And get on our schedule and come to our workshop. I don't mind marketing ourselves. I'm a poor marketer because that probably turns you off, but anyway. Yes,
I'm just, so the gist of it is that the differences, and then the book is tools
yes.
to work, to understand those differences and tolerate it, or
No,
accept the difference.
it's 2 things. Difference is reality, so get over it.
Yeah,
You're not going to find sameness
Right.
anywhere.
right.
It's not in the universe. No particle is like another particle.
Right.
They're all different. So that's the first illusion we have to give up in our relationships with anybody, especially marriage, because we really want our partner to be like us. You know, why can't you be in a cool room? And I see somebody patting up front. I want you to be like me. It's not going to happen. So that can go as an illusion. The second thing is, so what do you do to bridge differences? And here's where we develop what we call a Imago dialogue process, in which you talk and I mirror you. So I hear your difference. And when you come on with your difference, I don't say, that sucks, or too bad, or where'd you get an idea like that? Instead, I say, let me see if I got that. You, blah, 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 blah. Am I getting this? So I check it out, and then I said, do you have more to say about that? There's some more about it. Instead of, okay, I got it, now let me tell you what my reality is. That doesn't work. You have to sit with another person through, let me see if I got it, did I get it, is there more? And then you have to say, I'm getting that, you make sense. I don't have to agree with it, but I have to see they're a rational person making sense to themselves. And I honor that, accept that, and now after a while, he or she doesn't have to be so dogmatic with what they're saying, because they've been dogmatic because they haven't been listened to. So you keep coming back, you know, like the baby keeps coming back, trying to get the parent's attention, and the parent says, you know, not now. Or no, you can't do that, or no, that's wrong. But if you engage the child will stop pushing. All it wants is connecting and being present to them when they have an experience they need.
And let me mention,
so your partner needs the same thing.
You just said, well then we accept difference. Well, the way we would phrase that is, the first thing you do is become curious about why your partner's different. And take time asking them, is there more about that? You know, first see if you got their words right that are a different opinion from yours, mirror it back, and then say, is there more about that? And that's when your partner will relax, and they'll feel like you've got time to hear them, and then they won't become so rigid.
We have a couple, just to give you an example of a couple who I think now, what was 5-7 years ago, they came to a workshop, and this guy's a corporate consultant, but he got fascinated with zero negativity as a practice, and he said, I'm going to do that. So he and his wife have taken every exercise, zero negativity, the affirmations process, dialogue, and so forth, and spent 90 days doing it without missing a day.
Wow.
They came to the workshop with divorce papers. They're now in romantic love all the time. And they're experimenting with each other. It's like, okay, what else can we do to feel safer and have more fun? 5 years ago, they were on their way to the divorce court. So when Helen says you have to practice the right thing. and like you can't practice going to the gym, or probably meditating, because meditating is not an interactive process. You have to practice talking without judgment, listening without criticism, holding your partner's difference. And the amazing thing is, if Helen holds my difference, or I hold hers, it's not so important anymore. But our relationship becomes more important than the difference. Then we can collaborate on how do we live together so that we both are safe and we get something done that satisfies each of our different needs. But if we polarize, we don't get anything done except another fight. And more wondering, how long am I going to live with this jerk? You know, how long am I going to sit with this? Well, blah, 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 blah. And you can get out of it in an hour if you'll take this process and engage in it like a religious zealot, which is what this couple did. They said, we're going to do this exactly as you told us to. And they're now a transformed couple. He's now sending me exercises that they're experimenting with that I'm thinking of integrating into the Imago system.
So what do you do if only one person in the couple wants to do this?
That's the universal question. Yeah.
Model it yourself with your partner.
Yeah.
And you might need a support group of a couple people in your life that, you know, I'm gonna, no matter what, mirror my partner, no matter what they're saying, and try to have them feel accepted in our relationship. It's a terrible relationship, but I'm gonna shift and try to learn to accept difference in my partner. You might ask your partner, as a gift this year for my birthday, or end of the year holidays, or Valentine's, could we go to a workshop? And
At Multiversity.
At Multiversity, and could we just sit in the back of the room and just listen to how to have a happy relationship? I really want to learn what I could do better in our relationship together.
Yeah.
And then let someone else tell them what a healthy relationship is. Don't do what I did, was tell Harville what he needed to do.
Yeah.
That didn't work. I go, well, you shouldn't be the expert. Let your partner know that you're learning it too, and you just want to know your partner's frustrated, and you want to become a person where he's not so frustrated with you. You're not going to give up your opinions about things, but it's it's not what you're talking about, it's how you're talking about it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
clarify that you want to learn to talk in a different way.
What we found is the person who is really enthusiastic about going to a workshop, reading a book, and so forth, don't know that they are saying to their partner, you need to change. And they don't know that when they are enthusiastic about how much change we need, that the partner hears you need, and how resistant the partner becomes to that, not because the partner is resistant, but because the brain is designed to put a fence up for anybody who tries to invade my space and tell me I need to be different. They cannot not do they used to think it was resistance, learn to get over it and drop your fences. You can't drop your fences unless you're safe. The brain is designed to be defensive unless it knows it's not going to be hurt. And it's going to be hurt if you're telling me I'm wrong, that I need to change the way I am in order to, whatever it is. So I think what Helen's saying, just to underline that, you have to be sure, I want to go learn something, and I'd love you to be there to learn, to see what I'm learning, not because you need to change, but because I've been blowing this, and I want to be different. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. And I think that's one of the most famous things that anybody's ever said, and it applies to couples absolutely. Be the mirror, reflect back, drop the criticism, go to curiosity. And what you'll then do is make his brain feel like you're not his enemy, but that you're maybe could be his friend. And the brain's paranoid, built-in paranoia for millions of years of having to negotiate the jungle. But after a while, so anything you do puts him in the jungle, and wondering if he's safe. But if you're consistently and reliably safe for him, then he's going to say, what's going on with you? Are you taking something? Are you on drugs? Are you having an affair? You smiled at me this morning. Can you tell me what's going on? Then you say, I just love you, but I haven't figured out how to do it, instead of, I'm modeling something for you. Then he knows he's been taken. So you have to be authentically present as a partner who really wants to connect. You don't know how.
Right.
No human being knows how. Our culture doesn't teach you how. It teaches you how to compete, but it doesn't teach you how to connect. So you have to move to a whole new paradigm of learning how to connect, which means you have to be safe, and then connection will happen automatically. But if you're not safe, anxiety will show up automatically.
Ginger and I are clinical psychologists. We know most of you here, and we specialize in couples work. Harville and Helen have arguably done more to influence our field than any other couple ever.
Oh,
So
wow.
we are in the presence of greatness, just so you know. And just one other thing.
Thank you.
What you're advocating sounds so simple.
Yes.
It's such a discipline.
Yes.
And it's a slowed down, very deliberate way of communicating that really does take practice, and it's so worthwhile.
And it's like, it can be like a spiritual practice for people who have spiritual practice. Don't talk about love and you're getting to be a loving person and you treat your partner horribly. That's not a spiritual practice. Learn to practice listening to your partner and wondering why they are the way they are. It does take daily practice.
And they have written a book, which is right over there.
Oh, really?
Which I also want to read.
Oh.
They are authors. Yeah, let's show that. I didn't know you were going to speak up there, but now we should co-market. There's a book. And that's called From the Living Room to the Bedroom. Wow.
And that will be next week.
Thank you very much. That was very kind of you to say that.
Very sincere.
So great to hear you and to be here.
Thank you both very much,
You're
Harville and Helen. Just in time for Valentine's. We're
Yes.
so lucky. We will all go and practice this with our partners today, right? Yeah.
Bring the passion back. Red's a passionate color.
We'll start reading it out loud tonight. I'll read it to my husband. You have just a few minutes left to sign books, so thank you both again for being here. Thank you all for being here. We have books over here.